All right. So now we have 100.1 set. Just follow along best you can, Private Briggle, until we get your radio.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now below that we have PRE plus minus. This is going to change the channel up and down. Let's leave that alone for now. But this is how you cycle through your channels. To the left of that is the right arrow that says speakers. Do not push that fucking button. All right. The only time you're ever going to push that button is if someone says, hey, someone's radio is transmitting on speakers. Then you're going to open your radio and check that button. I'll let you click it once now. And when you click it, you'll see on the bottom right, it says speakers. That is bad. Click it again. It'll say headphones. That is good. Make sure it is always on headphones, because if you're transmitting on speakers, what can happen is something called a feedback loop, where it's picking up the sound that's coming out of your radio and retransmitting it into a whiny sound of death that makes you want to choke a kitten, and I'm not a fan of that. So for the love of God, make sure you're on headphones. Next one over, set additional channel. We're going to come back to that. This is how you're going to set another channel to be your alternate so that you can listen to two different nets at the same time. Now, kind of corresponding with that, the bottom left one, stereo settings, little parentheses with 0. Go ahead and click that button once. You'll see in the bottom right it says left only. Is everyone seeing that?
Affirm.
Yes, sir.
Affirm.
All right, so this is going to make sure that whatever your primary net is will only transmit into your left ear. Okay, this is very handy when you're listening to two different frequencies at the same time. So this way you can separate them, and you know that a certain frequency is only in your left ear and the other one will only be in your right ear, so you can really easily split them apart and know, which frequency you're being talked to on. I hope you guys can get out of the chairs as well when the time comes, otherwise it's going to get real fucking interesting. All right. So now we have this program. Go ahead and hit the PRE plus. Go to the next channel. You should see C2 and a random frequency. All right. Every time you grab a new radio, it's going to reset your frequencies to random frequencies. So if you grab a new loadout, you're going to have a new radio, and it's going to be randomly programmed. You have to reset it every time. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to clear this. Type in 100 and hit the ENT button to set it. Everyone got that?
Affirm.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this next part is very important. Remember that right arrow, the left-facing arrow, set additional channel? Go ahead and click that button once. You should now see the C2 turn to A2 100. Does anyone not have that?
Nope. But it's changed.
All right, so we all should see the A2 100. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go back to that stereo settings and click that button twice. So you should now see it says left only, additional, right only. Okay, so that means your primary channel is going to be left only, and your alternate channel will be right only. All right, now the last thing, and this is very important, a lot of people forget this step, is we need to go back to the previous channel to C1. Okay, so remember, whatever channel and frequency you're looking at in the LCD screen is your primary channel. So we save this A2 as our alternate. So we go back to the previous channel, that channel is still saved, and now our primary is back on C1. All right, is there any confusion about that? You can just say I have a question. Interrogative is a radio pro word.
I got ready to know.
This is the part where I tell you that 9 out of 10 plane crashes are pilot error. Okay. Yeah, most of the time, user error will be the bane. I guess, Brigland, don't sit down. Just stand there behind the chair.
Yeah, take your shades off real quick.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so now we have this set up. Let's go ahead and test something here.
And then lastly,
go ahead and hit escape to close out your radio. Did that not work correctly for anyone? Do you hear me speak separately in both your ears?
All working correctly, sir.
Wait, what, Duffy, what?
Did not hear you.
Did not hear me at all?
At all.
Can you hear me now on point 1? Interesting.
can't.
Interesting. All right, we'll have to figure that out. Do you have any funky sound settings, like
No, it's-
5.1 surround sound shit?
No, Lieutenant.
Okay, interesting. Shendi, Malatka, did you hear me just fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I heard you just fine.
Yep.
And just
Okay.
the
Yes, Lieutenant.
comms check. Can you hear me? Just speaking normally.
I can hear you speaking normally, not on the radio. We'll get to radio checks in a second here.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right. So that's the basic way how you set up your radio. All right, well, I just heard someone key up on point one. All right. Anyway, so that's the basic way to set up your radio. That's how you set it up. Is if you're a fire team leader, if you're a regular team member, you only have to set up that primary channel. You don't have to have that alternate set up and monitoring it. If you're the 2IC of a fire team, it's good to pre-program your channel 2, but do not set it to alternate yet. All right, so we go over more of that on day 2 on designating 2ICs and battle buddies and shit. All right, Briglin, are you tracking along? Do you have any questions about setting up your radio?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. One sec. Now we're going to move into Radio Pro Words. All right. Pro words are pronounceable words or phrases which have pre-assigned universal meanings. This is for the purpose of expediting message handling. All right. So the biggest ones that people usually don't know the difference of is over and out. Okay? These are very, very important to understand the difference. So over means this is the end of my transmission and a response is necessary and expected. Go ahead and transmit. All right? Over means that I am finished talking and I require a response. Out means that I have finished my transmission and a response is not necessary or expected. So, over means the conversation is still happening and I'm awaiting a response. Out means this conversation is over, the net is open, do not respond. So, if I say out and someone responds to me, well, I ain't fucking listening because I'm done with that conversation. All right, you guys understand the difference between over and out?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, they are never to be used together, so do not ever say over and out on the radio. That is Hollywood fucking bullshit, and I hate it. Do not ever do that. Now, the next one, Roger and Wilco. Same thing. Do not ever fucking say Roger Wilco on the radio. Again, serious Hollywood bullshit. They mean two different things. Roger is a response to information received. Simply means I have heard your transmission satisfactorily. All right, I've received your information. Wilco is short for I will comply. That's a response to receiving an order. All right, so if I send someone an order and they say Roger, well, that just means they heard that shit and they're giving me the middle finger and they ain't going to execute. All right, it's very important you understand the difference between the two. Wilco kind of implies Roger when you say it. It just adds on the, well, yeah, I'm going to execute your command. Any questions on that? Private Shendi.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Let's say, let's just assume that I ruined it and you gave me an order and I just said, Roger, can I fix that with saying after Roger, like, I will do this, or...
Yeah, well,
Already
okay.
in-
Well, then, in that case, we'll move on to correction. Stand by. Apologies. All right, next one's going to be correction in this case. So correction simply means an error has been made in the transmission, and you're going to continue, you're going to say correction and then continue with the corrected information. So in this case, if I sent you an order and you said Roger, you'd say correction, Wilco, and then that's it, done. You've corrected your transmission, and I know you will comply with that order. All right, so same thing if you're sending a grid reference and you send the wrong number, the wrong grid number, say, correction, this is the correct grid. Pretty straightforward. All right, any questions about correction, over, out, or Wilco and Roger?
No, sir. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right, the next two are going to be correct and wrong. These are pretty fucking straightforward. If someone sends information to you for clarification and it's correct, well then fucking correct. Easy. If it's wrong, tell them it's wrong and say correction. If you know the correct information, tell them it's wrong. Correction is this. All right, so don't tell them it's wrong and then not give them the corrected information. Next one's going to be disregard. Literally just means disregard whatever the last transmission was. If I say disregard, just pretend you didn't hear anything. Next is going to be break. Break is used as kind of a pause or a comma in a sentence, right? So it's used mostly when there's a long transmission with a lot of information, or if you just simply fumble your words and need to stop and take a breath. So I'll be talking, blah, 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 break, release the radio, key back up after a second, and continue my transmission. All right, so it's indicating a separation of portions of a message. All right, any questions about break?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Next is going to be readback. This can be used a couple different ways. So you can either request a readback or say that you're giving a readback. All right, so if I send information down and I want to make sure that that information was copied correctly, I will say, you know, here's this target, this grid, read back over. And that tells the other party that I want them to read back verbatim the information that I just gave them. All right, so they're going to key up and say, Roger, I read back, and then read back verbatim what I just told them. Okay, or if you want clarity on something or to make sure you copied it correctly, you can say, start with I read back, then the information, and then the other party will say, Roger, that's correct. You know, and that's it. Or wrong, followed by correction. You guys see how this is all kind of playing together here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, next one's going to be say again. All right, this is going to basically mean I need you to say again all of your last transmission. All right, you can use say again all after or all before a certain word, but it's a good chance if you have to use say again at any point in time, you miss more than just a couple words. So go ahead and just tell them to say it again. We are not going to use the word repeat. Does anyone know why we do not use the R word on infantry radio?
I do.
Why is that?
It's for artillery. Could be sent out again. The mission fire.
That is correct. Repeat is for indirect fire, so it can be for mortars or artillery. Repeat means repeat fire mission. We do not fucking do that. I mean, I might call on a fire mission. I can say that shit, but you guys better not say that shit on the radio. If I hear the word repeat at any time on the radio here in Osut, I guarantee you some magical fucking mortars are going to fall in and around your head just to drive that fucking point home. Oh, you laugh now. You fucking laugh now, but you ain't going to be laughing if you say repeat on this fucking radio. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, next couple are going to be wait. So there's wait over and there's wait out. All right, wait simply just means I need the time to respond to your transmission. I can't answer you right now. And so there's two different things. So we went over and out, right? So if you say wait over, that means I'm still maintaining control of this net, but I need about 30 seconds to respond at most. Wait out means I'm relinquishing control of this net. I'm going to need at least a minute or more to respond to your traffic. All right, but make sure you do respond, because if you don't respond, then people are going to start thinking, you know, casualties are involved, and then shit's going to get haywire after that. So if you're going to use wait over or wait out, make sure you do in fact respond. I usually recommend saying wait out, especially on higher nets, because other people need to use that fucking radio, and if you don't out your traffic, well, then they have to break into it, which is what we're going to get into now. All right, any questions on anything so far?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Next one to talk about is break, break, break. Okay, so this is different from just a single break. Break, break, break means everyone shut the fuck up. I have emergency or priority traffic that supersedes whatever you're talking about, and it needs to be transmitted now. All right, so when you say break, 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 that is an indicator for everyone on that net to shut the fuck up, and will allow you to send your traffic. So you're going to say break, 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 identify yourself or identify your calling station, and then send your traffic. All right? So there's three types of traffic. that we talk about here. We have standard traffic, priority traffic, and emergency traffic. So break, break, break is used only when your traffic supersedes whatever traffic is being sent. Standard traffic is just passing along movement, spot report information, and shit like that. Priority is now, okay, we have troops in contact. All right. The next emergency traffic is going to be, holy shit, we have a BMP-2 bearing down on our position and we're black on AT. We need fucking help right now. Okay, so you kind of see how, at least in essence, how those different types of traffic escalate, right? It's going to be up to the person that's transmitting to make that call. It's kind of a judgment call you're going to have to make, whether it falls under priority or emergency traffic, or if in fact it is more important than what's being talked about on the radio. All right, so that takes time and practice and just familiarity. So keep that in mind. Any questions about break, break, break?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have questions? Yes, Private Shandy, send it.
Let's say we are in high frequency or something between the company leaders or squad leaders, and some station said wait and out. So, and I have some sort of emergency. I have a PMP just right on my squad. So do I have to go with break, 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 or just in my traffic? Since
You
you
just
already
all
said
right.
wait and out.
So the way that net control works, and we're actually about to get into this. So it's a two-way radio, right? So you establish communication first, all right? And that's when you use this next pro word. This is. I want you to remember this phrase. You. This is me. This is how all official radio communication starts, especially on higher nets. You identify who you're calling, and then you identify yourself, and then say over. So you, this is me, over. This is the initial call for response. Now you wait for that response, and then the other station will say, you, this is me, send traffic over. You have now established control of that radio frequency. No one else but those two stations should be talking on that net at all until someone says out. The only way you would break into that is by saying break, break, break. So if someone says out, that means the net is now open. You do not need to use break, break, break. Break, break, break is only for breaking into a pre-existingly controlled net. All right, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Another question. Someone else had questions.
Me, sir.
Send it, Volt.
Just to sort of establish the metrics for what an emergency transmission would be. If I'm in a squad that's on patrol and I see enemies that my squad hasn't spotted yet, and they have spotted us and they're raising their firearms, presumably to fire on us, what level of transmission would that be?
You're getting priority there. I mean, if you're about to get in a firefight, you can just yell contact front. You don't even need to use the radio. Just fucking get on yelling, shout that shit out. Contact front, 50 meters, 100 meters, whatever. If you're about to get in a firefight, that's that. And then it falls on your team leader to send that shit up to the squad up to platoon, and so on and so forth, right?
Understood,
so we gotta
sir.
make
Thank
sure
you.
communication flows all the way up and down the chain. All right,
Understood,
any
sir.
other
Thank you.
questions? It's a good questions. Keep them coming. No? Going once? Going twice? All right, sold. All right, last one. So we talked about this is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into radio checks. All right? So we're always going to start with you, this is me. But when we do radio checks, it's when we grab our gear. It's usually we make sure our weapons are either unsafe or condition forward, depending on the environment. And then we're going to do a radio check. All right? So because you don't know who is on your net yet, you don't know who you're trying to call directly, you're simply going to start with any station this net, this is your name, radio check on frequency, then you insert frequency here, over. Then you wait for response. The responding station will say, you, this is me, I hear you Lima Charlie, or 5x5, or whatever. If they hear you 1x5 or 2x5, then fucking they'll tell you that. 1x5 is broken and unreadable, 5x5 is loud and clear. All right, so I'm going to say, you, this is me, I hear you 5x5 on frequency, insert frequency here, over. Now the initiating station is going to say, Roger, out. That's it. You now completed the radio check. So that's got every piece of a radio transmission in it. right? You have the establishing communication. You have what you're requesting on what frequency, over. And then you have the responding station telling you, radio check is good, over, then Roger, out. Simple, right? Any questions on that?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No,
sir.
All right, so radio check between myself and Sergeant Steele would sound like this. I would say, Havoc 22, this is Havoc 16, radio check on frequency 100.1 over. He would respond, 16, this is 22, I have you Lima Charlie on frequency 100.1 over. Roger, out. Done. Complete. Easy money. All right, so I'm going to have you guys each do radio checks, starting with Malatka. So I want you guys to start it with just any station this net, and then your name. Shendy's going to respond to you, and then Shendy, you'll start one. Volk will respond to you. Duffy, you'll start one. Or Volk start one, Duffy, so on and so forth, and then we'll end with Brigland to me. All right, we're going to do this on frequency 100.1. This will be your primary transmit key of caps lock on the radio. Any questions?
No, sir.
What channel are we doing it on?
It's going to be it should be channel 1, frequency 100.1.
Yeah.
All right, so Malatka, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Any station this net, radio check on frequency 100.1 over.
This is Private Shendy. Read you 5x5 on frequency 100.1. Over.
Roger, out.
Beautiful. All right, keep it going.
Any station on this net? This is Private Shendy. Radio check on frequency 100.1. Over.
Private Shendy, this is Private Volk. I hear you 5x5 on 100.1. Over.
Roger that. Out.
Fucking money. Keep it going.
Any stations this frequency, this is Private Volk. Radio check on frequency 100.1. Over.
Private Volk, this is Private Duffy. I have you Lima Charlie. Oh, over.
So I'm not hearing you on the radio at all either. But you do in fact have a radio, correct?
I do indeed.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll fix that out. Just respond. Yeah, start that over. Just make sure you say the frequency that it would be on, hypothetically. Have you changed your transmit keys at all by chance?
Negative.
So when
That
you
does-
hold
should be
when you hold
transmitting,
caps
right?
when you hold caps lock, it says that you're transmitting. Then
Yeah, I'm seeing transmitting 1528 channel 1
All right.
110.1.
okay. Do me a favor and just close and reopen your TeamSpeak.
You
real
might
quick.
need to do the previous channel to channel 1.
I was on channel 1. I will
Okay.
close out Teams.
Yeah, to try that
Right
real
back.
quick.
User disconnected from your channel.
Sometimes. So this is a TFAR bug that happens sometimes where the radios don't work for someone. If this happens in an official setting, normally you want to answer or tell someone about it in the most immersive way possible. So in this case, usually we'll say something like, hey, I need to reset the battery, change the batteries on my radio, or reset my radio, or something like that. It's going to indicate that
Any station this
oh,
net.
still not working.
Radio check. Frequency 11.1.
Wait, what frequency are you on?
110.1.
Okay, you should be on 100.1.
That'll do it.
Yep. Hey, look at that. There's that plane crash we talked about.
So, am I talking with Duffy?
You will be in a second here. Just let him fix his radio. Private Shendy, send your question.
First of all, sir, Private Volk got a question.
Oh,
So
sorry, I
you
missed
wanted to
it.
go with him first. So.
Well, you're talking already. I'll get Volk
Okay.
after.
So I noticed that we don't combine the numbers in case they are 3 digits. So is that even we're doing that when we're just talking on 2 digits like 70, 71, 51?
Okay,
or we
I'm
just
actually
never
glad you
combine?
brought that up because I totally forgot to mention that. Yes, on the radio, we do not group numbers together. This is for clarity, right? Because if I say 350 on the radio, well, that could sound like 315, and that's entirely fucking different. So we make sure we say 350 or 350 or 315. All right, we always split up our numbers on the radio, even in double digits or single digits. All right, so we're giving a bearing, all right, bearing of 06, 060, 153, 290. Always split the numbers up on the radio. Good question. Private Volt.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Just a quick question. I've already forgotten how to conclude a radio check. As in, I've already sent it out. Say Duffy, for example, has responded. How do I conclude it?
Simply say Roger, so I heard you satisfactorily, and out to close it out.
Understood, thank you.
Yep, it's the easy part. All right, let's try that again. Duffy, are you good on 100.1?
0.1. No. Lieutenant, I'm going to get this right this time.
Don't worry, I've had this problem too.
Sorry, the radios are... Communication is one of the most difficult things we have to deal with in this unit, especially when the fucking bullets start flying. Shit gets real hairy.
All right, Lieutenant McCoy, I am ready to go.
All right, Private Volk, try that again.
Any stations, this is Private Volk, radio check on frequency 100.1. Over.
Private Volk, this is Private Duffy. I have you Lima Charlie. Over.
Well, hold it up. So make sure you indicate, do the whole thing. I have you Lima Charlie on frequency, then over. All right.
I have you Lima Charlie on frequency 100.1. Over.
Excellent. Now, Volk, close it out. Hint Roger out.
Sorry. Roger out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good job. Good job. Should write that down.
Yeah.
All right, Private Duffy, initiate one. Brigland will respond, and then Brigland will start one, and I'll respond. Go.
Private Duffy, this... Oh, sorry. Private Brigland, this is Private Duffy. Any station this net. Radio check, frequency 100.1. Over.
Private Duffy, this is Private Brigland on 100.1. Read you 5x5. Out. Over.
Oh,
Roger.
Over. There you go.
Roger out.
Okay, so Duffy, you know where you fucked up at the start there?
Yeah, any station this net.
Yeah, so if you're calling someone specific, you don't need to say any station. Like, if you know who you're calling, just call them. All right? If you don't know who you're calling, then you say any station this net. All right? Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's as long as you guys understand the concept of what we're doing here, that's what I'm looking for. All right. Private Brigland, send it.
You?
Yeah, just
Or
say
any
any
station.
station this
Okay.
net. This is
Any
Private-
station this net. This is Private Brigland. Hold on. Let me do it again.
I did not hear you at all. I heard you key up.
Okay, hold on. That was weird.
You may actually have to restart your TeamSpeak.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and try that
Let me do
real
that
quick.
real quick.
Disconnected. Connected. Channel switched.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I'm still not hearing. I hear you key up, but I do
okay.
not hear you transmit. Try one more time.
Can you hear me on
Anyone else?
100.1?
There he is.
Okay, good.
All right, try it. Just start from the top.
Any stations this net. This is Private Brigland on 100.1. Over.
Yeah, so make sure you throw in radio check so that the people know what you're requesting. But it's fine. You don't have to do it again. Brigland, this is Havoc 16, Lima Charlie on 100.1. Over.
Roger, out.
All right, good shit. Radio check's complete. So, a little shaky, but first day, I don't expect them to be fucking perfect. After a couple of months in the unit, you guys will be ripping these fucking things off, no problem. We literally do these every time we get geared up to do anything, whether it's squad training, platoon training, FTX, operation, whatever. It's literally the first thing you fucking do after you get your gear is do a radio check. So you can have plenty of time to practice this shit. All right, you guys have any questions about anything we've covered up to this point?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, well, get comfy in those chairs, except Brigland. You're going to have to stand. I'm going to hand you off to Sergeant Steele. He's going to go over weapon familiarization and some other basic information. Sergeant Steele.
All right, so like the LT said, we're going to be going over some weapon systems familiarization. We're going to look at a few things here, but one thing I will mention for you guys is that I know it happens to me all the time. Maybe have it for you guys, you know, yes sir, no sir, since he's been talking to you most of the time beginning here. Myself and Sergeant Parent are just sergeants though, so that's already happened once, so get used to it. Here we go. So first one we got here, first thing we're looking at is the RCO. That stands for Rifle Combat Optic. You may also hear it as an ACOG. So this is a multi-purpose tool. Obviously, you can use this thing to engage your targets, but it's also pre-ranged for your weapon system. So what that means is the tip of that red chevron you see there is going to be ranged out to 100 meters. The middle of it is 200 meters, and then the base of it is 300 meters. So then you've got that vertical little stem that sticks down there, and you've got horizontal lines that get marked along that as well. Each of those are going to be spaced out in hundreds of meters as well, so 400, 600, 800. And the point of those is that they are actually the width of 19 inches at a given distance. So that width is important because it's the average width of a military-aged man's shoulder. So, to put all of this in English that I've just ran through here, basically what you're going to do is you put that horizontal line on an enemy infantry's shoulders. And if it matches, if it lines up, or fits rather, then you have a rough estimate of how far out that enemy infantry is. If it doesn't, then you got to keep looking, or you have at least some idea of, you know, maybe I'm too far, too close. So to give you an example, say I see somebody that's about 600 meters away, I put the 4 mark on their shoulders, it's going to be too big, right? Because he's farther out than 400 meters. So I'm going to go, all right, well, that doesn't fit. Let me check the next one. Then I check the 6, that fits. All right, now I know he's roughly about 600 meters. So now I already know, since I've been looking at him, I know what he is and how far he is. Just pull up my compass real quick, and now I've got my 3Ds, right? So you can pretty much use your optic and get all that information just based on that. So does that make sense?
Yes, Sergeant. Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, cool. Any questions on the RCO before I move on?
Yes, Sergeant, this is Private Duffy. You mentioned 3Ds. I always get 2Ds. What is the third D? Direction, distance, and
Description.
description.
So what you're looking at.
Thank you, sir.
Private Duffy, question.
That was Private Duffy. Thank you, Sergeant.
Oh, no worries. All right. So next that we have here is going to be our M4 carbine. So this is a standard issue for the U.S. Army. It's a lightweight gas-operated shoulder-fire weapon. It is magazine-fed. It's chambered in the 5.56 NATO round. Has a point target range of 500 meters. And it also has an area target range of 600 meters. So to touch on those last two things real quick, the point target range is going to be your accurate range. Anything within 500 meters, basically where you're aiming is where that bullet's going to go. Anything outside of 600 meters or so is what I called your area target range. So the reason for that is you're pretty much suppressing at that point once you're past that 600 meters. Now, that's not to say that you can't hit anything outside of 600 meters. It's just going to be slightly harder because, you know, versus you're accurate, where you point may not be exactly where that bullet's going to land. Since you're far enough out, you could have wind, you could have, you know, the ballistic drop, all kinds of other shit that's going to play a factor into where that bullet goes. So not too much to cover on this. Any questions on the M4?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
All right. Private Jenny, go ahead.
Thank you, Sergeant. I've seen a lot of like versions for the M4, so does that like make a huge difference between like the M4A1 and the M4 PIP and stuff like that?
Not necessarily. So the different versions that we have, for example, are just going to be cosmetic.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant.
Yep, no worries. All right, next we have here is our M320 that can go underneath our M4. So this is a UGL, which stands for Underslung Grenade Launcher. It is a 40mm breech loading grenade launcher. So a couple of things about this is that it will be ranged out for you, marked up on it, up to about 350 meters. So what'll happen is, once you pull this thing out, you have a sight aperture that pops out of the side. and it'll have little tack marks that go all the way down, and it'll have writing next to them all the way up to that 350 meter mark. So once you aim down sights, that's going to be an easy way that you can actually figure out how far it is, you know, set the fucking range, and off you go, as long as you know what that range to your target is. These things are going to be carried by our grenadiers that are going to be in pretty much each fire team, as well as squad leaders and up if they elect to carry these. Now, the important part about this is really the ammunition that can go into it. So the different munition types that we have include HE, which is high explosive. This is going to be very effective against infantry in the open. Enemy infantry up in the open, if I be so specific. So then next we have, which is kind of similar, and I'll talk about the differences, the HEDP. So this stands for high explosive dual purpose. This is going to be most effective on enemy wheeled vehicles because it's going to be a little bit more of a concentrated blast where it'll take out those tires a lot easier. The HE is more focused on a wider blast as well as shrapnel that'll be thrown around, and that's why it's a little more effective on infantry. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't intermix them. They still are an explosion. They still will do damage. It's just they are definitely more specific based on what target you're looking at. Any question real quick on the difference between those two?
Negative charge.
Negative.
Okay.
Negatives.
So other types that we have of munition that we can load in these 40 millimeters is going to be our 40 millimeter smoke. This is super useful either for marking targets with red smoke, for example, or just long range concealment. So if you have an enemy MG position that's looking down on you and you pop smoke right in front of you by throwing it, as soon as you move out of that smoke, that MG can fucking see you again, right? So your range of movement's not very far. It's however wide that smoke plumes. Now, if you get a 40 millimeter smoke up in his face right in front of that nest, now the range of movement that you have is extreme, right? So now that that's right in front of him, you can basically go where the fuck you want. He has no idea. Private Duffy, go ahead.
Sorry for breaking immersion. Is smoke here obscuring, or just how obscuring is smoke?
Will you clarify? What do you mean?
So in other versions, I've seen where smoke has not been obscuring to.
Smoke will conceal the fuck out of you.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So next munition type, Private Volk, go ahead.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant. I've heard that 40 mil, like smoke launched from 40 millimeter, from the underslung 40 millimeter grenade launcher, is less potent in the amount of smoke produced than like a smoke grenade. Is that correct?
Not for us, as far as I've seen.
It is a little bit. It's a smaller plume, but you can put it out at much further distances, which make it more effective when we're assaulting.
Understood. Thank you, Sergeant. And thank you, sir.
I think Private Briglin had a question too.
All right, Private Briglin, go ahead.
It's kind of unimmersive, but do the AI actually, can they shoot through the smoke and still see you, or does it actually do something?
We can't still see you, but they will suppress through the smoke for sure.
Okay.
And that's something we'll touch on usually a little bit later, but so the difference between concealment and cover, right, is cover's going to stop bullets, but concealment doesn't. So that will apply for AI and such. We also do have our Zeus operators, so if they're controlling a unit, they're definitely going to fucking shoot through that smoke.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to suppress. They won't see you, but yes, they will shoot through it.
Right.
All right. Any last questions or comments?
Sergeant.
Not for me, Sarge.
Alrighty. So last few different types of munition that we have for the 40 millimeters. We have Hunt IR. These are really pretty damn awesome. From Platoon HQ elements and up, they'll carry these, and basically what it is a camera that's attached to the round. When it hits its apex in the sky, it'll deploy a parachute, and it'll just slowly drop to the ground. And so they can pull out their tablet or whatever device they've got. They can look through that camera, and so it'll give them a good visibility on an area that we wouldn't be able to really see otherwise. So very useful. And then outside of that, we do have other auxiliary types of rounds that you'll end up seeing once you get out of Osut. Things like illumination rounds, so like flares, things like that. We also have got buckshot rounds. So if you're going to be going through melt a lot, you can maybe tray out like an HEDP for buckshot or something like that. So it's basically like having a small shotgun underneath your M4. Things like that. So you'll see other auxiliary rounds. Any questions so far on what I've covered there?
Sergeant.
No Sarge. No Sarge.
No, Sarge.
No, Sergeant.
Sounds good. Next weapon system we have here is the M249 SAL. So that stands for Squad Automatic Weapon. This is a gas-operated, air-cooled, belt or magazine automatic weapon. It fires from the open bolt position, and it has a max rate of fire of about 850 rounds per minute. It has an area target range of 1,200 meters. So just to kind of cover a couple things that I mentioned there in a little more detail. So the area target range, there's no point target range, right? So with it being the squad automatic weapon is a suppression weapon just by nature. All right, so you're not going to be tap shooting this thing or basically firing one bullet at a time. All right, you're going to be firing in bursts at minimum. So that being said, you only have your suppression range. You don't have a point target range that's specific or very accurate. Another thing that I mentioned that you might have caught on to is that I mentioned it's belt or magazine fed. So you can actually take the 30-round stand mags that we carry for the RM4s and you can jam it into the fucking SAW. So this is only going to be in an extreme emergency if you're completely black on ammo, have no other way to basically get any ammo or a different weapon system or what have you. As a last-ditch effort, you can take one of those 30-round Stanags, jam it in there, and then you've at least got something. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you're not going to do this. Obviously, 30 rounds is much smaller than the 200-round belts that we normally will carry around for the thing. And typically, you'll have almost everyone in the fire team also carrying extra ammo for you as well. So typically, I see most ARs have well over 1,000 rounds. So you have usually plenty of fucking ammo, but sometimes you end up chewing through it. And the other reason is a realistic reason as well. So realistically, if you try to fucking put an M4 mag into a SAW, you're just going to chew that thing up, and you're going to cause problems probably to the weapon system and all kinds of other shit. So it is just not a good idea just in general. But we do have the option. All right, so the SAW is carried by all of our automatic riflemen. There's going to be 2 per squad, so 1 in every fire team. And basically, also don't confuse this thing with the 11 Bravo machine gunner's weapon system, which we'll cover in a second. So you'll kind of see the difference here in a bit. Any questions on the SAW?
No, Sergeant.
Private
No,
Malarkey has a question.
Is that it?
Are there 100? You said 200 round boxes, not 100, or does it really matter?
We have both, so you do have the option. We have 100 and 200.
Right.
During OSUT, you'll be using 100 rounds to teach you proper rates of fire.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Sergeant.
All right. Any other questions before I move on?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sarge.
Okay. So next we have the 249's Big Bro. This is the M240 Bravo. This is the medium machine gun. So this is belt-fed, air-cooled, and gas-operated, fully automatic machine gun. Also fires from the open bolt position, so a lot like the SAW. This is chambered, however, in the 7.62 NATO rounds, unlike the SAW, which is in 5.56. This has an effective area target range up to about 1,800 meters. And like I mentioned a second ago, this is carried by our 11 Bravo machine gunners. So this guy is actually classified as a crew-served weapon. So it's going to take more than one person to operate it. Basically, what that means for us is that we'll have the gunner, the guy who's going to carry around the weapon system, fire it, everything like that. Then we also have the assistant gunner. You may also hear him called like the A gunner. So the gunner like I said, is going to have that weapon system. That's his main responsibility. For the A gunner, he's got a couple of extra things to worry about. He's just going to have his M4, but what he's going to worry about is spotting and ranging targets for that 240, as well as helping control the rate of fire of that gunner, make sure he doesn't waste ammo, things like that. And he also has the option to link a belt into that weapon system as well to extend the belt life on it. And another nice part that I actually forgot to mention about the 240 is that we have AP ammo for it, so armor piercing ammo. So if you come up against a pretty lightly or kind of medium armored vehicle, like a, I don't know, BRDM or a BTR or something like that, that AP ammo can actually punch through there and kill the crew inside. So you may actually be able to either disable or kill everybody from inside of it without having to end up wasting AT from one of the rifle squads. All right. Any questions on the 240 Bravo?
No, sir.
No, Sergeant.
Private Shendy, go ahead.
Thank you, Sergeant. Regarding the AP ammo, is it you just said it's for the M240 Bravo or for the SAW?
Just for the 240 Bravo. The SAW does not have AP ammo.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Private Volk.
Thank you, Sergeant. What's the area range for the 240B?
That's up to about 1,800 meters.
Understood. Thank you, Sergeant.
Any other questions?
No, Sarge.
All right. Good deal. So next we have here is our M17. So this is our magazine-fed pistol. It's chambered in a 9mm round. It's going to have an effective range, I usually say, within like 50 meters or so, because basically you're not going to be in a fucking long-range engagement with this thing. It's not purpose. It's also not going to reach out very far, right? So the people that are going to carry this are going to be our automatic riflemen, our 11 Bravo machine gunners, and then any team leaders and up. So pretty much the purpose of this is that if you're carrying that M240 or the 249, that thing takes for fucking ever to reload, right? Trying to get a new belt in there is kind of a pain in the ass. So let's say you're running through a town and, you know, there's all kinds of guys that are popping up right in front of you, all kinds of close enemy contact that you have, and all of a sudden some dude pops out in front of you, you've only got like a round or two left, and then all of a sudden you hear the magical click click. You go, oh fuck. Well, you know, your option at that point is, well, I'm not going to try to reload this thing and start trying to engage with it again, because that's just a waste of time, and I'm going to be dead before I even pull the freaking current pouch out. So pretty much the reason for it is that if you do need to reload like that and you're in an emergency situation, you can at least switch to your handgun and have some sort of a fighting chance. So that way you're not just stuck with your dick in the wind, you at least have some way to hopefully drop the motherfucker in front of you, then find some cover, and then reload that weapon system. Another thing to note with it is that sometimes you'll see guys that'll be carrying those big weapon systems go to clear a building, and the first thing they'll do is they'll switch to their handgun. That is a big no-no. Why, you know, in your mind, would you think that going in with a fucking 9mm handgun is going to be a better option than a 100 or 200 round machine gun? It just doesn't make sense, right? You might as well go in there with the fucking saw or whatever weapon system that you got. Don't pull out the handgun just because you think it's for clearing. That's not what it's for. All right. Any questions on that? Not too much to cover on it either.
Oh, Sergeant.
No, Sarge.
No, sir. Sergeant.
Told you it would happen. All right, moving on. Next slide we have here is our M136 AT4. We also do use the M72 Law, so be mindful of that, and I'll kind of talk about the differences here in a second. So the AT4 is a lightweight self-contained SLM, which is the shoulder-launched missile. It's going to be used for light and improved armor systems, and it is a single fire tube with a rocket preloaded. So basically what that means, as soon as you shoot it, you can't reload that tube. So drop it on the ground, get your rifle back out, get ready to get back in the fight. and watch for dismounts if you're shooting that thing at a piece of armor. So the way that the split goes for the AT4 in the law is half of the riflemen in the platoon are going to carry the AT4, and then the other half are going to carry the law. So the way that breaks down, to maybe make a little bit more sense, is that in one squad you got 2 fire teams, right? So whatever fire team takes the AT4, the other one takes the law. Doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily matter which fire team takes which, but as long as you've got one of each. Can't have 2 AT4s or 2 laws. In Osut, once we do things with like both your full fire teams, things like that, and we find fill-ins for you guys, you'll notice that we do have you carry 2 AT4s, but that's for Osut. Once we get out, it's going to be an AT4 and a law. And lastly, the effective range of these is up to about 350 meters. It is going to change based on what vehicle type you're engaging, though. So, for example, the law, there's a couple of vehicle types where it helps to be a little bit closer, but we'll cover that more in depth on day 3. So, any questions on the AT4?
No, sir.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Just Sergeant, but thanks for the promotion. All right, sounds good. So, the next one that we have. We do have a slide for these now. So, the next one that we have is the M3 MALS, aka the Carl Gustav. So, MALS stands for Multi-Role Anti-Armor Anti-Personnel Weapon System. Fucking tongue twister. So, we actually do use both the M3 and the Mark IV. The only difference really is the size and weight of the tube and then the munition type. So, these are both classified as a recoilless rifle. The M3 is effective up to about 900 meters. The Mark IV is up to about 1 kilometer. So once you're that far out, really 100 meters difference is not too much anyway, so pretty similar. Now, one of the kind of important differences here is that the M3 is only going to be used to fire heat rounds. So that stands for high explosive anti-tank. The Mark IV is going to fire those same heat rounds, but they also have HE rounds that they can load in there. So they have high explosive rounds that they can fire on enemy infantry that carries a lot more shrapnel and high explosive radius, and that makes it a little bit better on enemy infantry. So it's pretty sweet. The other very important thing about the MALS is that it can be reloaded, unlike the AT4 and the law. So once you launch something, we've got extra rounds that we've got, and we can load it back into that tube and use it again. Another nice part is that I'm going to talk about kind of what the assistant gunner does for the MALS, but the assistant gunner, one of the things they can do is actually load a rocket while the gunner has the tube shouldered as well, so that makes it a little bit easier, get more rounds. So the actual weapon system itself, carried by our 11 Bravo anti-armor gunners, so they, as well as the 11 Bravo machine gunners, are part of the weapon squad. So another thing, really kind of the main focus of the assistant gunner is pretty similar to the machine gunner. So he's going to spot and range targets for that MALS, and then he's also going to carry extra ammo for it. And like I mentioned, he can load a tube on it, into it, while the gunner has it on his shoulder. So, any questions on the MALS?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Okay. So, next weapon system we've got, you guys have probably seen one of these before. So this is the FGM-148 Javelin. So the effective range of a Javelin is up to about 2 kilometers. Pretty fucking far. This is going to be carried by our 11 Bravo anti-armor gunners as well. So basically what will happen in that weapon squad is we'll decide, do we want to take 2 MALS teams, or do we want to take, a MALS team and a Jav team? That'll dictate whether or not we're going to be carrying a Javelin. So basically the important part of this system is the CLU. So that stands for Command Launch Unit. And that's basically that thing that's sticking out of the side of the tube. So what that does is it gives us the lock-on, fire and forget, and the top-down attack capability of that weapon system. So it's very important in that regard. It also does have thermals on it. So, for example, you can just pull out that CLU, and actually do a thermal scan with it too. So you can even help, identify or find targets that we may not be able to get eyes on. And then we also do have an assistant gunner for the jab. So they're usually going to carry an extra round for it, as well as, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they still just carry the extra tube.
Affirmative.
All right, so it's pretty much covers it for the javelin. Any questions on it?
No, Sergeant.
Private Briglin.
What type of armament can this take out? Or what kind of enemy vehicles can this javelin take out?
Typically, you're going to see it being used against an MBT. So again, we'll kind of cover specific vehicle types and what's going to engage them on day 3. But usually an MBT, I believe they can also lock onto air targets as well and engage them.
Okay.
But it's a little bit more rare because you'll usually see our air assets taking out enemy air assets.
Yeah, you got to remember the javelin was built with the intent of engaging enemy main battle tanks. So we only have 2 rounds for it the entire operation. So we want to try and conserve it for the highest priority threat targets. Sometimes in a pinch, we'll engage something like a BMP with an autocannon or something like that, or maybe a Tunguska, an anti-air piece of armor that's considered extremely high threat. But for the most part, the intent is to use this to take out enemy heavy armor.
Does that answer your question?
Yep.
All right. And who had the other one? Was it Private Shandy?
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, said it.
So it's about the javelin. After launching the first missile, so the tube becomes useless like the 84 and unable to just reload another missile with it, or you just you can reload a missile in the same tube after launching the first one.
Lieutenant, I don't actually know exactly.
It's a disposable tube like the AT4. So the clue, the command launch unit, is supposed to detach from the tube and you just stick it on the other one. We generally do it that way. However, I'm sorry to break your immersion, but sometimes if there's a problem with the separation mod, we will have a javelin that just reloads, even though that's not realistic. So realistically, it's a disposable tube, but you may end up having to reload it depending on if there's a technical issue or not.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Sergeant.
All right. Any other questions? Moving on then. So our next system we're looking at is going to be our M67 fragmentation grenade. So this is a pre-fragmented steel body with about 6.5 ounces of explosives in it, and it's got about a 4 to 5 second fuse. So the reason I bring up the fuse is, do you guys know what cooking a grenade is?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Outstanding. All right, we never fucking do it here. People don't do it in real life, and we definitely sure as hell don't do it here. The reason that I mainly bring this up is because in your advanced ace throw, when you pull that up and it gives you your arc, one of the options is actually to cook or hold the grenade, whatever it may be that you're holding. So you can even do this with flashbangs, which is even more stupid. So just make sure that you don't ever fucking do it. That's pretty much that. So I shouldn't have to explain it, but if you're going to clear a room and you end up holding that flashbang by accident and you flash your entire team, well, guess what? Now you can't go clear that room, and you better cross your fingers and hope to God that guy doesn't come out of that room because you can't see it. So does that make sense? Am I clear?
Question.
Said.
When you're when I see people saying they're prepping a grenade, is that just changing the type of grenade that they're pulling out?
Affirm. So one thing that we'll touch on with Sergeant Perrin when we get outside is how to cycle through your different types of grenades. That's typically what they're doing. Is they're just cycling to it and make sure that they've got it set.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I just want to ask: is anyone here active duty Army or been in the real life Army?
No, sir,
No,
not
sir.
yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you right now, that they do not teach. In fact, they explicitly tell you not to cook throwable munitions in the real life military. So do not ever fucking do it here either.
Private Volk, question.
Thank you, Sergeant. Is the not cooking a grenade thing due to the sort of I know that there's a range of like 4 to 5 point something seconds that the grenade will go off in, so it's not like a specific set time. It varies between grenade, even if it's the same model. Is that part of, I guess, why the not cooking off procedure is followed?
So the biggest reason is that the idea came about when grenades used to have about a 10-second fuse. So instead of throwing it in there and having the enemy have time to possibly pick it up and throw it back, even though they'd be fucking insane if they did so, they could still possibly do it. So you would cook that grenade for a few seconds, then throw it in, and it would go off at a shorter timer, right? So our fragmentation grenades that we have now have such a short fuse that there's no way that they're going to have time to grab that thing and try to throw it back out the door.
Understood, Staff Sergeant. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Go,
Sergeant.
Okay. So a few other things about this, just kind of informational, is that it'll have about a 15-meter kill radius and then about 30 meters of fragmentation spray out outside of that. So that's what make these things so deadly. So if you end up using these things in a room, most likely you're going to fucking kill everybody inside. That being said, a couple things I'm going to cover about clearing the rooms and things like that with these hand throwables. One thing is that with the fragmentation grenades, you'll also see with our new ballistic system, things like that, sometimes you'll toss a frag in and it will not kill them. That does happen. I know sometimes it'll get frustrating, but you just have to kind of accept that reality as of currently. So do know that that is a possibility. Also, make sure that basically just don't be afraid to use these things. And I'm going to go over this even pretty much again with the flashbangs as well. But when you're going to clear out a building or a compound, any sort of structure, and you have any idea that there are enemies inside, make sure that you're using your equipment. This is the biggest thing here. Like, use your brain, fight unfair. We don't fight fair here. So here's two kind of situations, and this will differentiate between the frag and the flash. And then I'll move into the actual flash grenade itself. So if we're going into an enemy compound, it's built up, got H barriers and, you know, military structures all over the place, is very clearly enemy held. Fragmentation grenades are perfectly fine to toss into an enemy like HQ building, things like that. Very specifically, you know, if there's somebody inside that you need to try to not harm. So let's say we are in the same enemy structure, but there's an HVI, high value target, high value individual, and we want to try to not kill them. That's when we don't want to use a fragmentation grenade, right? Pretty much use your brain. So another instance, if you're going into a building that you need to clear out and there are friendlies that maybe went in before and went down, don't throw a frag in because now you got friendlies in there. Or if there's a civilian in there, things like that, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And you guys kind of get the picture now. That's when you're going to use a flashbang so that you toss that in there, flash out any of the enemies. That way you get them stunned, they can't see, but you don't hurt anybody that's actually inside. So does that make sense on the difference of when you're going to use the two?
Absolutely,
Yes,
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Absolutely.
All right, outstanding. So any last questions on the frag before I touch on the flashbang?
Not for me, Sarge.
No, Sergeant.
Okay. So a little bit of similar information, kind of much of the same. But first off, the M84 flashbang, also known as the stun grenade sometimes, it is a diversionary device where upon detonation, it emits a blinding flash and a deafening bang. So hence the name, right? This guy only has a 1 to 2 second fuse, so it's very quick. That's why I said cooking this thing is even dumber. It's definitely going to go off in your fucking head. And like I mentioned, just to reiterate, actually, let me touch on this first. There's actually, to break immersions for a second, the AI have sort of a cone of vision that if this thing doesn't go off in that cone of vision, it won't even affect them at all. So that bang part of it, it's not going to like disorient them or stun them or anything like that. It has to land right in front of them for it to actually stun them. If it does stun them, it'll stun them for about like 8 to 10 seconds or so. It is very, very effective, very useful. So I only mention that because sometimes you'll throw flashbang in and it won't work. So if you go in, the guy still shoots at you and still can see you. Don't get pissed off, because that's how it works. So, just to reiterate one last time, don't be afraid to use equipment. Don't be afraid to use these things. We usually will have at least somewhere around 2 flashbangs, 2 frag grenades. Once you're out of Osut and everything like that, and you're in a full squad, you've got 10 guys with 2 each, right? So you've got 20 of each. You've got plenty of fucking equipment that you can use when you're clearing things out. So definitely don't be afraid to use these things. All right, any questions on the flashbang?
No, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Alrighty, we're gonna breeze through the last little bit here. We're just gonna cover our M18 smoke grenades. We don't have a slide that'll come up for a picture of them, but basically the colors are what are important. So our smoke grenades are canister type grenades that emit a large plume of colored smoke. So like I was saying, the colors are important. So the first one that we have here is white/yellow. So anything white or yellow smoke is going to usually be used for concealment. Now, kind of the difference is usually we'll typically carry yellow, and you'll see the enemy usually carrying white, or sometimes we've seen them carry like black, things like that. So it's just a way to differentiate us between the enemy. It just makes things a little bit easier. If you see white smoke close to your position, an enemy probably threw that smoke. Pretty straightforward. So the next one, to go into a little more detail on this one, is going to be red. So red smoke, this is going to be used to mark an enemy position. Now, if you end up accidentally throwing red smoke, or anything basically happens that there's red smoke near your location, say you end up having to throw it for concealment because it's the only last one you have left or something, and you need a smoke grenade. Or sometimes the enemies have been carrying different colored smoke. So sometimes just to fuck with you, they'll throw orange, blue, fucking red, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you'll see a whole goddamn rainbow out there on the battlefield. So if you see a red smoke that's close to you for whatever reason, and it's not being used to mark an enemy position, which it shouldn't be if it's close to you, make sure to call up on any radio that you're on at that time to disregard red smoke. That's pretty much as straightforward as the call is. Just disregard red smoke. That's all you gotta say. Make sure you say it on pretty much any radio net you're on, though. So, like, if you're a team leader, call it down to your guys just so they know. But then also make sure that you call it up so it gets all the way up the chain. Reason being, you know, if we have close air support coming in, a cast run, sometimes they'll be like, given red smoke as kind of an idea of where the enemy position is. So it'll give them a little bit better of a way to get eyes on, for example. So if there ends up being red smoke close to you, well, then they may end up actually engaging. So you don't want to be standing near it, right? Unless they know. And I can guarantee, kind of similar to saying repeat on the radio, that anytime in OSUT for 4 days here, if you guys end up throwing red smoke and it's close to you guys right there or whatever, and it doesn't get called up to us, I guarantee that Lieutenant McCoy will drop magic mortars out of the fucking sky in that case as well. So those are the 2 biggest things to be 100% sure of while you're here. Is that clear?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Okay, awesome. Alright, so the next color is going to be green. This is going to be used to mark a friendly position. So this as well is very useful for CAS, close air support. So typically when we have a CAS, any sort of close air support coming in, or really any fire support coming in that's going to be close, sometimes they'll tell us to pop green smoke on our location. Now, the reason I bring this up is because if you pop green smoke at your feet, and then you fucking leave, you walk 50, 100 meters away from it, well, guess what? Now that green smoke is not marking your position anymore. So that is a pet peeve of mine, and I guarantee it's probably a pet peeve of other people too. If you pop green smoke and they tell you to, don't fucking leave your position. Make sure that it is actually marking where you are, or else you may end up having your friendlies go down because you had them move out of that green smoke. Alright, so the next color is going to be orange. This one's pretty simple. It's going to be carried by our combat engineers, blacksmith, and it's going to be used to mark demolitions. So pretty much if you see orange smoke around that area, probably don't be near it because something's about to go boom. Next we have purple. So this is going to mark an MCI, which stands for Mass Casualty Incident. Most commonly, you'll probably hear it called as a MASCAS here. This is only going to be carried by medical personnel, and they're going to be the only ones to determine if it is a MASCAS or not. So don't come rolling up on 2 friendlies down and start calling up that you have a MASCAS in your location. So biggest thing with this for medics, and I kind of like to speak for Sergeant Perrin a little bit here, but when you roll up on this position and you have a MASCAS incident, what's going on is you have sort of 2 things that you need to do. It's like a flow chart. Roll up on that position, and the medic that's working on everybody says he needs your help. Well, you jump in and you help him, and you do what he says for you to do. Simple enough, right? If he does not say that he needs your help, or he tells you to go away, the next thing that you need to do is basically step away from it, probably about 50 meters or so, or more, and hold security. So the reason why you want to get your distance as well is that if you're walking around in the middle of a MASCAS, you can kick bodies around. And what'll happen is you'll actually cancel animations, and you'll actually deplete the supplies that they're using at the time too. So if they're doing something really important like pushing a blood bag, for example, and you kick the body away, well, you just wasted that blood bag, and you canceled it for that medic. Now they've got to start it over again. So be very careful of that. But simple enough for you guys is you show up, medic says to help, you help. If not, you pull security. Easy as that. Any questions as far as that goes? Private Shandy.
Thank you, Sergeant. Regarding the MASCAS, is it like it should be behind the front line? Like after engaging in a, like let's say that we are engaging in the middle of the town, so we have to clear it first and make a MASCAS behind, or anywhere we can make it?
So typically what you'll see medics do is they will set up a CCP, which stands for Casualty Collection Point, and that will usually be away from that front line. So yes, it won't be in the front line. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Sergeant.
Okay, outstanding. Private Briglin.
All right, so going back to the green smoke and red smoke. So if you have a very tight quarters and you need close air support on a target that's within like 100 meters of your position, so would you pop smoke on their position and your position?
Typically that's something that will happen, yes. Usually if you have something that's coming in like that though, they're gonna either like laser designate it or something along those lines. They're usually not gonna use smoke if it's that close. But Lieutenant McCoy, if you want to,
they ain't gonna get. They're not gonna engage anything within 100 meters of friendly forces. Period.
Okay.
Right.
Like we're talking, 300 is danger. 300 meters is danger close. So to get a cast run with large ordnance at 100 meters, that's gonna be real tricky. You might get. It depends on the air assets that we have available. We have like a Little Bird that can do a gun run or something like that, maybe, but. Yeah, you're going to want to, we have to be absolutely sure that friendlies are not going to be hit by that cast run. So, yes, we're going to want to identify as best as possible, but the likelihood of the task force commander authorizing casts at that close range is going to be real fucking slim.
Okay, so what if we have like a mass cast and there's like no one up and we need casts or closer support?
Well, that'll be at the task force commander's discretion on that situation.
All right. Answers the question.
all right. Any other questions?
No, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Outstanding. All right. Private Shandy, go ahead. Private Shandy, do you have another question?
This is the part where you ask your question.
Sorry, Sergeant. Yes. Sorry, Lieutenant. Do we have like blue smoke in service? We use blue smoke?
Only the medics are going to have blue smokes.
And team leaders also carry blue smokes, but no one else.
And
Like
what's
basically,
that for?
leaders and above and medics carry blue.
And what's that for, Lieutenant?
That'd be for designating a broken chain of command.
Yeah, the sergeant hasn't got to there yet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were still on purple. That's why I said only medics. My bad. I was really confused for a second there. Yeah, so I'll touch on blue real quick. This is the last one. So this stands for broken chain of command. Literally, pretty much is the exact same thing as purple, as far as just coming up on it as a fire team member. So again, there's going to be medics all over the place, working on a bunch of people. If they tell you to help them out. If not, pull security. But it's pretty much the same concept for you guys.
Thank you, Sergeant.
No problem. All right, so that's pretty much all I have as far as weapon systems go. So any last questions or comments up to anything that we've covered so far?
No, Sergeant. Thank you.
No.
Thank you, Sergeant.
All right, Private Volk.
Thank you, Sergeant. Just quick question. Given that we are coming up on 2 hours roughly, mind if I take a quick bio break, roughly 3 seconds? Restroom?
That's the quickest fucking piss I've ever heard of.
Wait, did I say 3 seconds? I meant minutes.
He's got a bottle in his hand just waiting for you to say yes.
Alright, we can give him 5 minutes before we get up to the range.
Alright,
We also, since you guys are stuck in the fucking chairs, all y'all except Private Briglin are going to have to disconnect and reconnect, or just at least abort. You don't have to disconnect, but just back out and come back in and grab your loadouts again. So, Sergeant, if you're finished, we can get that done.
Alright, taking a break.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sergeant.
So, you got 5 minutes to do what you got to do, in addition to back out and come back and get your gear. So, make it happen.
Understood.
I'll meet you all by the
you,
flags. Just gather up over here or so. I'll bring it over to Sergeant Perrin when we're all here and ready. Well, honestly, while one of you guys are still taking a piss, honestly, yeah, sure, go ahead and set them up again, and then I'll just give you some good practice. Sounds good. Yeah, I think we're still waiting on one, 'cause we got 5, so. We, probably aren't gonna end up having to use the radios again for the rest of at least today, but it's good to have that practice.
Any station on this net, this is Private Shandy, radio check on frequency 100.1, over.
That good?
Private Shandy, this is Private Duffy, got you, Lima Charlie, over.
Roger that, out.
Any station this net, this is Private Milan, key radio check on frequency 100.1, over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear you on 120.1, Devin.
There we go. Private Milwaukee, this is Private Duffy. I've got you on 100.1, 100.1, Lima Charlie, over.
Roger, out.
Staff Sergeant, I got a question on the optic, the RCO.
Yeah, send it.
Pretty much it's clear with the vertical line, which is like basically for 800 meters and below. In each horizontal line, in that no vertical line, it just refers for something, 200, 300 meters. What's regarding the big horizontal lines on the left and the right side of the optic? What is that for?
Let me see. Papa, so are you seeing like 3 chevrons? Is that what you're asking about?
Like I'm seeing the arrow, the red arrow, and
RCOs
the
they have are kind of fuzzy.
vertical line, but I'm seeing also like 2 horizontal lines, one on the right and one on the left. So I'm just wondering, what is that for?
Hold on, let me grab one. Grab one of your kits and see what it looks like. Oh, I see. The horizontal lines that go across it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't actually have an answer for you. I'm not sure exactly what those are for.
What's the problem, Sergeant?
It's the long horizontal lines that stick out on either side of the RCO. Is that just for like windage or something like that?
The red?
No, it's not the it's not that fuzzy optic. That's what I thought it was at first, but it's something I never even really notice or pay attention to. But it's the
in the
there's 2
RCO?
horizontal lines that go off on either side and have vertical lines that go across those. Yeah, the RCO.
So that's, you know, range adjustment up and down. The long lines are 100 meters, the short lines are 50 meters. And it will adjust windage as well, but obviously at the ranges you engage with this weapon system, it's not that big a deal.
Actually talked to somebody about these who uses them as a forward observer, and you can use those for artillery adjustments.
Yes.
When you know the range, you can use those to adjust your artillery.
Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Staff Sergeant.
Alright. Alright, everyone back?
Looks to be.
Looks like everybody now.
Everybody, follow me. Line in front of me, please. Thank you muchly. All right, so everybody just did your recruit training class here recently. Did everybody reset your key bindings for your grenade throw?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, so first thing I want you to do is press the number 6 key on your number row. You'll notice in the top left or right hand corner, it toggles between fragmentation grenades and your flashbangs. Everybody seeing this?
Yes, Sergeant.
Hey, firm,
Yes,
Sergeant.
All right, now hit the number 7 key. It's going to cycle through your different smokes that you have. First thing you're going to do when you load into a server is going to tap your number 7 key once you get your loadout. That way you cannot accidentally frag while you're doing your PCCs. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tap the left control, or not left control, left shift and K kilo key. You're going to notice in the top left-hand corner, you're going to have a blue arrow. You don't have a dot on top of it or a couple of dots on top of it. Everybody seeing this?
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, that is your windage indicator. Arrow is the direction the wind is blowing. Number of dots is how strong it is. So if you're thinking about throwing a smoke grenade to conceal your position or to block an enemy position, you need to check your windage. If it's blowing really strong right to left, you're going to need to throw it more to the right so it plumes by the time the smoke pushes it to the left or the wind pushes it to the left. Everybody tracking what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Acting Sergeant.
Private Volk.
Thank you, Sergeant. What is the keybind for windage indication again? Thank you.
Left shift K kilo. Hit them at the same time. Yep. And Private Shindy.
Thank you, Sergeant. Does the white dot refers for the strength of the wind?
Yes, so if it's blowing really hard, you'll have 4 or 5 dots.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Uh-huh. All right, if there's nothing else, everybody go ahead and form up all out before we do this. We're going to go over our pro words that we use when throwing our hand throwables. First one is going to be out. So if you're throwing a frag, you're throwing a smoke, or you're throwing a flash, you're going to say flash out or frag out, letting everybody know that you're throwing it. Even your smokes. If you're in a fire team and you're pushing right down, say you're pushing down the road there behind you, the sidewalk, one smoke will cover all that. So you don't want everybody in the fire team to throw a smoke. You're going to waste 3 smokes because one will do it. So when you throw your smoke out, letting everybody know that you're throwing it, that you'll let it plume before you move. Same with a frag. If you're fragging a room or flashing a room, you frag out, then you're going to wait for that frag to go off before you go charge it in the room. And you want to make sure you say it so that way you don't throw it and your buddy doesn't have any idea you threw it and he goes running in the room. You don't want to frag your buddy. Next one is going to be frag. So say we're standing right here and Lieutenant McCoy throws a frag over that wall at us. We see it, we're going to yell frag and we're going to take off running trying to get cover. So if you hear somebody yelling frag, you're going to want to get cover because somebody just threw a frag at you. And then bad frag. So it goes for flashbangs also. It's a bad flash. If you're stacked up on a door, you throw your frag and it hits the door jamb and bounces the wrong direction. Bad frag. Everybody needs to get running away from it. If you can't get far away from it, you can't get behind another wall, then you're going to want to lay down and put your feet toward it. You'd much rather have your feet torn up than your face torn up. Everybody tracking what I said? Anybody have any questions?
Oh, Sergeant.
All good stuff, Sergeant.
All good.
Thanks for promotion. All right, so let's go ahead and grab a dimple in the wall. One person to a dimple. All right, we're going to do this all together. Private Briglin, just go ahead and step down to that little dimple right there to your right. All right, the target's in the very center. So everybody here on the left-hand side, we're going to throw at these 2 targets. Private Briglin, you're going to throw to the targets there in the center of your side. First thing I want you to do is press your number 6 key. Get a fragmentation grenade. Once you've done that, I want you to hit your G key. That's going to pull up your throwing arc. Then you are going to yell, frag out. Wait till everybody echoes this back to you. So everybody is going to yell, frag out, and wait for everybody to hear me say frag out before you throw. Everybody's going to throw. Then we're all going to hit the ground and face away from it, laying on our bellies so that nobody gets hit with the frag. Does everybody understand?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant. I got
Yes,
a
Sergeant.
question.
Send your question.
For the left-hand side, what are the targets they are targeting?
The 2 targets right here in the middle. See the ones I'm pointing at?
Copy
Right
that.
behind. All right. Any other questions?
Negative.
All right. Yep, everybody's going to throw it once. So everybody yell. What are we yelling?
Frag out.
Frag out.
Frag out.
All right, frag out. Go ahead and throw.
Frag out.
Frag out.
Frag out.
Frag out.
Lay down. Face away. Oh. All right, everybody recover. Back to your feet. All right, everybody understands how to go ahead and move back up to the wall while you back away from the sandbag. Everybody understands how you throw a grenade, correct?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, let's go ahead and press the number 7 key again. Make sure we got a smoke grenade toggled. And then let's follow me. Form a line in front of me. All right, this is going to be our AT range. First thing we're going to cover are your binos. So I want you to hit your B Bravo key. That's going to pull up your Vector 21 Night rangefinders. hit your right mouse key. Look down the optics of it. See a little black circles? Everybody seeing a little black circle in the middle?
Yes,
Yes,
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
Go ahead and put that little black circle on that tank behind me. Now I want you to hold down your tab and our Romeo keys together. Do you see the red circle? Everybody see that little red circle?
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Yes, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
All right. Did you see it there, Private Brigland?
Yes, Sergeant.
All right, now let go of both keys at the same time. Now you're going to see two sets of red numbers. Red numbers on the left are going to be the bearing from your current position. Red numbers on the right are going to be the meters from you it is. So from your Vector 21 Knights, you can get your 3Ds. You're looking at it, so you can see that it's a main battle tank, MBT. And see that its bearing is roughly 270. And I believe it's going to be roughly 53-ish meters. Is that correct?
Correct. Sorry.
All right. So now
Right
you can
on the
get
money, Sarge.
Say again.
I was saying right on the money. It's
Oh.
exactly
I thought you said something about a bunny, and I was going to say I wasn't talking
No,
about a
sorry.
bunny. All right. So that is how you use your Vector 21 Knights. This will more than likely be your battle buddy. If you're carrying the AT stick, we'll get his vectors out, give you range, bearing, and description. Then you're going to echo that back to him as you're getting your AT stick out. You can press your K kilo key. Once you get out of your vectors, go ahead and hit your right key again. Hit your K kilo key. That's going to pull up your compass. Once you get your AT stick off your shoulder or off your back onto your shoulder, press your R key. That will open your optics and unsafety the weapon. Then you will hit your K kilo key. That will pull your compass out, which will allow you to get your bearing. Then you can look and see roughly 50 meters, 53 meters. You'll be able to get on target. So you're going to echo back what he told you. You make sure you're on the right target. So as you can see behind me, there's many targets out there. You want to make sure you're on the correct one. Once you get on target, you're going to say back blast clear. So your battle buddy will now put his vectors away, grab his rifle, and look behind you to make sure that there's nobody standing in the back blast cone of your rifle or of your AT4. Now, just so you know, it's almost a 90-degree arc behind you. So if I'm standing a meter behind you and almost, well, okay. So you're standing right here. If you're facing the other direction, if I'm standing right here, I'm going to get hit. If I'm standing right here, I'm probably going to get hit. So you can see it's going to be a very wide cone. So you're going to make sure that there's nobody in the cone behind you. You're going to let him know backblast is clear. Then he will yell rocket, 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 and fire the AT stick. If there is somebody in the backblast, you will yell backblast not clear, at which time you'll both yell clear to backblast, backblast clear. Doesn't matter if it's clear or not. Rocket, 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 and fire. Whatever is in front of you that needs destroyed is more important to whoever is standing behind you at that time. We can always get him back up. It will not kill him. It might fuck him up and knock him out, but we can get him back up. But if there's a tank sitting in front of you that needs hit, or a BMP with an autocannon, it needs to go right now. It will cause way more casualties than your backblast. Does everybody understand how we range the target and how you operate your AT4s?
Yes, Sergeant. Question, Sergeant.
Send your question, Private Duffy.
Private Duffy. Backblast is about 10 meters, 15 meters for clearance?
At least here.
Okay.
If you're closer than this, then it's not clear.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Not a problem. Private Shindy, did you have a question?
No, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, if everybody understands what we're talking about, next thing we're going to discuss is once you've hit your target. So once you hit your target, you're going to give a BDA, a battle damage assessment. Your target goes catastrophic, it blows to pieces, then it's going to be 100 over 100. If you take the tires off from a BTR, but the gun is still up, then it's 50 over 100, turret still operates. You're going to say this over your radio to let it go up the chain of command, letting them know if that armor piece is dealt with or if it still needs another stick hitting it from another squad. Also, once you fire your AT4, you're immediately going to pull your rifle out, which will automatically drop the tube on the ground. Do not ever pick one of these tubes up. If you find it on the ground, it is going to be used. You don't want to carry a used AT4 stick on your shoulder or on your back, as it will confuse people. If they see you with an AT4, they'll grab you to go and take a BTR out, and your tube's empty. It's useless. Then there's no point for carrying it. And once you fire your rocket, you're going to pull your rifle out. You're going to drop your tube on the ground, and you're going to wait to see if anybody comes out of that vehicle. If it has any dismounts, you want to have your rifles out. So if dismounts jump out, you have your rifle ready to take them out. Anybody have any questions on any of those procedures?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant. Thank you.
All right, Private Volk, Private Milwaukee. Go ahead and move over here to this set of sandbags. Private Shanty, Private Duffy, this set of sandbags. Private Brigland, next set of sandbags down. I'll be your battle buddy with the binos out. One of you get your binos out, the other one get the AT4 out. Whoever has the binos is going to give the 3Ds. Whoever has the AT4 stick out is going to take the shot first. Then you're going to alternate, and whoever has got the AT4 stick now will get their binos out next. Go ahead and do your...
Sergeant, am I clear to choose any target?
as long as you can get him on target, go right ahead.
Roger that.
All right, we're going to go for this gas here against the wall.
We've got an
All right.
MEBTR.
It is at
bearing 275. Range is 131
bearing 277, range 70 meters. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you. One, you might want to put your earplugs in because this is going to be loud. You can self-interact with yourself and put your earplugs in. Second thing, page up, page down, we'll range your AT stick in 50-meter increments. That's all. Carry on. All right.
Track vehicle. Private Cindy, can you call that again? 261.
Roger that. It's an enemy BTR.
So what are we shooting at?
Bearing 275.
Gas.
Range is 131.
You don't have to key up, just talk. I couldn't hear a word.
Yep. Gas.
275.
All right.
Backblast clear.
What's my range?
70 meters.
Confirm. Backblast is clear.
Backblast is clear.
Confirm. Rocket.
All right. Drop your AT4. Get your rifle out for any dismounts.
0/100.
Just hit the number 1 key.
Oh, it's not.
And there you go. What's your BDA?
Not.
Now it will be 0/100 because these things are undestroyable. Normally that went catastrophic.
Oh,
all right.
Those things are undestroyable. So. Well done. But I'm pretty sure you hit it.
Switch positions.
Yes, sorry.
Well, you don't have to move around each other. Just swap weapon and binos out.
Okay.
Alright.
Roger that.
Right.
Safety's off.
Tracked vehicle bearing 240.
Okay, got a BTR 253, 100 meters.
Bearing 240.
BTR 253 degrees, 100 meters.
80 meters.
100 meters.
100 meters.
Roger that. Clear my back blast.
And whenever you're ready.
Back blast is not clear. Sergeant Perrin.
Clear my back blast.
Clear.
Back blast clear.
Rocket.
Nice shot. BDA 100 over 100. Normally.
Why the hell are we
Make
injured?
sure you two get your rifles out once you fired, ready for any dismounts.
I guess somehow injured myself. I don't know how or why.
Well, that's because you were turned and your back blast hit this set of sandbags here and ricocheted back into you. Actually, both of you are bleeding.
Yep. Can we treat ourselves, Sergeant? Is that okay?
I didn't know that part. Okay, thank you, Sergeant.
Sergeant.
I'm good. So those things are not destroyable. We're just hitting.
So that way we can keep shooting them.
Robert Shindy, were you standing when you hit, or were you kneeling?
No, I was crouched.
That's why.
Did hit it.
Yeah. I didn't know that it can bounce off if I.
You did hit it though.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you're in a small room, it will bounce all over that room.
It looks like these vehicles are just indestructible for the range.
I think I hear the version of one of the AT4s that can be fired from a locked room or something. Is that correct?
We don't have them if they do.
I mean, in real life,
your rifle's condition
is it available?
I have no idea.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant.
All right, so everybody's done this. Anybody have any more questions about the AT4 sticks?
No, Sergeant.
No,
No,
Sergeant.
Sergeant.
All right, then follow me. All right. Right now, we're going to cover our rates of fire with our two primary weapon systems, or three primary weapon systems. First one is going to be your M4. It has three firing modes. First mode is going to be your safety. Does everybody know how to put your safety on your rifle?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Affirm.
Sergeant.
I do.
All right. Your left control and your F Foxtrot key. Your Foxtrot key by itself will cycle through the modes. Left control Foxtrot will put it on safety.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Not a problem. Your second firing mode is going to be semi-automatic. And then your third firing mode is going to be fully automatic. Now your rates of fire for your M4. First one is going to be sustained. Your sustained rate of fire. You're going to use this at targets between 400 and 500 meters. It is going to be roughly, or it is going to be one round for every 3 to 5 seconds. Like this. All right, and your next rate of fire is going to be the rapid rate of fire. You're going to use this at targets between 200 and 400 meters, and it is basically doubling your sustain for 2 rounds every 3 to 5 seconds, like this. Then your cyclic rate of fire, you're going to use at targets closer than 200 meters, and it is going to be 3 to 5 rounds every 3 to 5 seconds, like this. All right, now with your M4s, usually the only time I ever go to fully automatic is when I'm clearing a room or in a CQB urban environment where I need to put a lot of rounds quickly into a target that's going to be usually very close. That's about the only time I ever go to fully automatic. The rest of the time I am running in semi-automatic. You don't want to waste ammo. You're going to have a lot of weapon sway, so you're not going to want to just fire in full auto all the time because you're going to be wasting 90% of those rounds. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the 249 and the 240 Bravos. Those only have 2 modes of fire, which is safe and fully automatic. So everything will be done in bursts. For a sustained rate of fire with the 2 support weapons are going to be sustained is 3 to 5 rounds every 5 to 7 seconds. Like this. The next rate of fire will be rapid. You're going to do a 5 to 7 round burst every 5 to 7 seconds, like this. Then the last rate of fire is going to be cyclic, and it is going to be 2 bursts every 3 to 5 seconds. So if you say in your head, die motherfucker die, while you're pulling the trigger, that is roughly how long your bursts will be. Say this in your head, don't say it out loud because everybody will think you're a psychopath. So just in your head, pull the trigger, die motherfucker die, let go, like this. And one last thing that we do with our support weapons, usually between the 249s and the 240s, we will do what is called talking guns. Basically what you're going to do is one weapon system is going to fire. When that weapon system stops firing, the other one will start firing, and they will just go back and forth. So one gun will talk, then the other gun will answer, then the first gun will talk again, so it goes back and forth. Once one has to stop and reload, the other one will pick up its rate of fire to cover while the other one is down. Then vice versa, when they get back up, the other one will cover while the other one is reloading. So they go sort of like this.
Talking gun, sustained, gun alpha firing. Reloading. Copy.
You can see how he picked up his fire to cover the other one. You can see how one picked up to cover the other one while it was down. Now they're back to doing the same thing until the other one has to reload. Does anybody have any questions on anything I've gone over here at the firing range?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
You want to step up to the sandbags behind me? Go ahead and spread out across
Sergeant?
the course. Yes, Private.
It's not about the firing range, but it's about the talking radius. How can I put myself on like yelling or normal talking or whispering?
You're going to hold down your control key and hit the tab key. Watching the little head pop up until it is shouting. Then you're going to release.
Yes, Sergeant. Thank you.
Not a problem. Any other questions?
No, Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
All right, then let's go ahead and step up to the sandbags. All right, everybody get your rifles out, shoulder them, kneel down behind the sandbag. All right, now, go ahead and tap your C Charlie key. You can see that now you've mounted your rifle to the sandbag. That's going to help you hold the rifle still, so you're not going to get as much weapon sway. You can also do this while laying down or propped up along a rock wall. Go ahead and load your rifles, and the range is hot. If you want to practice with one of the 249s or 240s, you can go back to the box and grab one if you want. When you reload your weapon, make sure you yell it, letting your buddies know around you that you're reloading in case they need to cover your sector.
Reloading.
Sergeant, permission to go grab another one? Grab the 240?
Yep, go right ahead.
Reloading.
Reload.
Sergeant, permission
Yes.
for 249 saw gunner.
I told you if you want to use them, go grab them. Just don't point your loaded rifle at me.
Reloading.
Reloading. Not reloading. I didn't see
Reloading.
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 Loading.
Reloading.
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 Looks like everybody is done, so let's go ahead and condition for your rifles. Magazines out. All right. Form up down here in front of the lieutenant. LT, they are all yours.
Roger that. Stand by. All right. You guys having fun yet?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Local tinnitus,
I
sir.
heard one questionable response in there. All right. Well, we're almost done. We're going to go over one last thing here. We're going to talk about movement formations. So follow me up to that big ass green tower behind you here.
Oh boy.
Are we gonna repel?
No.
I'm joking.
Talking about
We
formations.
never repel, unfortunately. Not allowed to.
Ah, yes, just like King of the Hill.
All right. Find a spot on the southeast side of this tower.
Southeast.
And you're looking for that big red cargo container over there.
Visual.
That's what I'm going to use to indicate what I'm talking about. We all here?
Eyes on.
We're all here. Okay. All right. So what we're talking about here is movement formations. All right. So on day 2, we're going to talk more in depth about the difference between movement and maneuver. So I just want to make it clear that these are movement formations. Right. This is what we use during the movement phase. So this is how we get from point A to point B. And the formations are going to depend on, where we expect contact from, how we need to move, and a variety of other different variables. All right, so we're going to start down here, the furthest to the east. This is called the fire team file. All right, so the order is in the front, you have the fire team leader, followed by the automatic rifleman, grenadier, and rifleman bringing up the rear. All right, this formation is preferred for moving through tight environments, such as really dense tree coverage or jungle areas. It provides the ability to move quickly through areas. However, it has poor security to the front and rear, but it does have strong security to the flanks. All right, because you could easily turn to the left or right and have a firing line or a skirmish line already there, right? Why does it have port security to the front and rear? Anybody?
Only one gun up front. Sir?
Correct. That is correct. So for the second person to engage, so say they took contact to the front, the AR would not be able to engage immediately without shooting through his fire team leader, and that's just a no-go. It would take time to reposition the fire team to establish a good base of fire. So we do not frequently use this formation other than moving through dense terrain. We do, however, use this in what we call pre-combat formation. So pre-combat checks, you're going to get basically squared up nut to butt, shoulder to shoulder, 2 fire teams in a column like this or in a file, and you'll do your checks like that. Now, another caveat I'll add about all these formations is that the spacing that you're looking at here is way too tight. All right, so this, for demonstrative purposes, just so you can see the formation, we have these guys in real tight. But realistically, when we're out in the field, you're going to want to spread out a lot more, like at least 10 meters between each member of the fire team, and more if there's a threat of indirect fire. All right, any questions about the fire team file?
No, sir.
Sergeant?
No, sir.
All right, I heard one sergeant there, but we'll let it slide.
Sorry, Lieutenant, that was me.
It's all right. At least you're trying. All right, moving on. So next is going to be the fire team wedge. This is the de facto movement formation that we use the majority of the time. All right. So when we move, we generally know that we're moving towards enemy contact. So on point, again, we have the fire team leader. To his right is the automatic rifleman, and the rifleman to their right. On the left, by himself, is the grenadier. This is going to be a strong right wedge. All right, so there's a couple variations of wedges, but when you say strong side, that implies that the automatic rifleman is going to that side. So you're putting the majority of your firepower on that strong side. So if you say strong side right, that's going to be the automatic rifleman on that strong side. A standard wedge would have the automatic rifleman switch with the grenadier, so it's a little more balanced, right? So you have your highest casualty producing weapon by themselves on that offside, and that's a standard wedge. All right, so this formation is good for pushing towards contact. It has good rear security as well, decent security to the flanks, but it is mostly used for pushing towards known enemy contact because you can simply just push your guys forward into a line, and you've created a base of fire. All right, any questions on the fire team wedge?
Lieutenant, is this good spacing or?
This is still very tight. Yeah, I'd spread it out another five or plus meters between each person. And you'll see how that plays out more when we get to squad formations. Yeah, send your question.
What is a good rule of thumb to determine spacing in the field? Is it just line of sight or?
Yes. Yeah, line of sight is going to be your best tool, to basically dictate that. So you want to make sure you always have visual with at least your battle buddy, and have a familiarity where the rest of the fire team is. Use that situational awareness, like pick your head up and look around so that you understand the position of everyone and what sectors they're covering and what sector you need to cover or what sector you need to pick up in case someone drops theirs or shifts over, etc. Private Shandy.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Which formation is better when pushing an enemy? This white strong wedge or the default or the standard wedge?
That is going to be dependent on the situation, and it'll be dictated by the fire team leader. So if we're pushing, usually we're going to try and establish a flank on an enemy. So if we're pushing somewhere, but we know the enemy is expected to be on our right side, we're going to have a strong right wedge to put the majority of our firepower closest to the enemy position. All right, but we'll see how this balances out a little bit more when we get to the squad column. All right. Does that answer your question, at least a little bit?
Absolutely, Lieutenant. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about the wedge?
No, Lieutenant, thank you.
All right. Moving on. All right, so this is a squad column in file, right? So similar to the fire team file, except now we have a whole squad here, right? So it's the entire squad moving in a file, single line, or single file So this is what we'd use, say, if we're moving through a minefield or something like that. We don't want anyone blazing a fucking trail through a minefield, so everyone needs to follow the path that's already in existence, right? So we're gonna put engineers on point with the mine detectors, and sometimes team leaders also carry mine detectors. So we're gonna stick them out on point. Everyone just needs to stay in this file to make sure we don't accidentally set one off. All right, so we have your lead team here. This will be your support team. And then, so this gap where the box is now, this is gonna be about 50 meters, all right, between the front element and the leadership element. So this is gonna be the squad leader and squad medic right there. And then your trailing fire team will be another 20 to 50 meters behind that leadership element. All right, so it has the same pros and cons as the fire team file. You know, good flank, poor front and rear, good for moving through tight areas and minefields. Any questions about the squad column and file? All right, remember, silence is not an answer. All right, moving on. So this is the standard squad column. All right, so here we have up front, we have our fire team wedge with a 50-meter gap between the leadership element and the front, and then another 20 to 50 meters between them and the rear element. So the rear element is in a fire team diamond, just there for demonstration. It's not something we use too frequently. It provides good 360 security. Normally we'd use it if we're escorting, you know, if we found like an HVT or, you know, some target that we're moving somewhere. You know, we put them in the middle of that diamond and give them good protection. But normally a column like this would have two opposing wedges. So on the point here, let's say these guys are in a strong side right. So I know the AR is on the weak side here, but let's imagine the AR is on their right. All right, so then the rear fire team would have a strong left wedge. Now you have an automatic rifle pointing off each flank of the entire squad, giving this squad good protection to both flanks with their highest casualty producing weapon systems. All right, and so the idea behind the column is that your front fire team is going to be the base of fire element. And I know it sounds shitty, but they're the bait, right? So we want them to get in contact first. So they're going to get in contact. They're going to push up online into what's called the skirmish line and start engaging the enemy. They're going to try and obtain fire superiority and pin the enemy down or fix them in a position. Now, once they've established that, they're going to communicate with the rear element or the maneuver team, and they're going to punch out to, you know, right or left, and they're going to initiate a flanking maneuver on the enemy. So now that they have the enemy fucking pinned in or fixed, now we initiate a flank, and we finish them. We close in the gap. Front team will lift fire, and then the maneuver team will eliminate the enemy. All right, you guys seeing how that works?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Lieutenant.
This is just basic fire and maneuver stuff. We're going to go over more of this in depth and in practice on day 2. All right, but that is the essential, execution of the squad column here. Any questions about the squad column?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, moving on. So now we're getting into the line formation. So a column is a formation that's built front to back. So that's a vertical formation. A line is considered a lateral formation. So here we have the squad line. All right, so obviously it's not exactly a line. It is basically two wedges stacked up next to each other. All right, so we use this formation when we know that we're pushing towards heavy enemy positions or a fortified enemy position, that we need the maximum firepower to the front. All right, so this is going to be a little different, whereas we talked about strong side wedges. This is one of the situations where that's not necessarily preferred. So you see both of these wedges have the automatic rifleman on the weak side of their respective wedge. This is so the squad leader, who's in the middle here, can have direct fire control over both of his highest casualty producing weapon systems. All right, so now he doesn't have to call down to his team leaders individually on the radio to give orders to pass down orders to each specific automatic rifleman. He can just go right to them and say, hey, I need you to fucking engage this area, you engage this area, this rate of fire, whatever. All right, so now you've eliminated unnecessary comms on the radio. The squad is now more effective. The fire team leader only has to worry about giving orders to the other two fire team members, while the squad leader can dictate the machine gun fire. All right, any questions about the fire team line, or excuse me, squad line.
Yes, Lieutenant, this is Private Duffy.
Send it.
What is the most common mistakes that you're seeing when people are going online that we should think about avoiding?
The most common mistake is that I see people pushing up too far, or they're not actually online. People will run in front, and people will continue engaging enemies while they have friendlies too close to their line of fire in front, right? So, in the heat of the moment, like, I get it, you want to push up on the enemy and you want to be aggressive, but at the same time, you need to keep that situational awareness to make sure that you're not breaking that line and possibly getting hit by friendly fire. Because what's going to happen is, say you're pushing out of some woods, the cover is going to be sporadic, so you're going to be shifting left and right. And if you push up and shift too far in one direction, well, all of a sudden you might be in front of the barrel of a 249 that's already engaging, and you're going to run right into their line of fire. And then, that's a fucking blue-on-blue incident, and we don't ever want that to happen. But that is probably the most common that I see here. So it's the lapse of situational awareness is what we'll call it.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yep. All right, any other questions about the squad line?
Yes, Lieutenant Private Shindy.
Send it.
Who is the best guy to watch the squads back 6 o'clock?
So generally, the job of the grenadier will be watching the squad or fire team's blind spots, but it's basically going to end up being whoever has the best line of sight. So whoever's in that position to see, that sector that's going to be their job. So in this case, the 2 riflemen on the outsides are going to be the ones that are going to have the job of checking the rear security. Essentially whoever the best is for the job is going to be the one that does it. There's no exact, SOP for this is this guy's job all the time. It's like, if you're there and you realize that needs to be done, well, that's your fucking job now. All right. Any other questions?
No, Lieutenant.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Moving on. So last formation we got here, this is called the staggered column. So generally we're going to use this when we move along, roadways, and especially when we're escorting vehicles, right? So a lot of the times we'll do mounted operations, which include our Cougar MRAPs. And we always put infantry out in front of the vehicles, and we walk in a staggered column like this along the road to prevent against the threat of enfilading fire. Does anyone know what enfilading fire is?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, Lieutenant.
Okay, so the best way I'll describe it is, imagine a stack of dominoes, right? You push the first domino down, the rest of them fall, right? That's essentially the effect of enfilading fire. So let's say this red box is an enemy over here now, right? So that's the enemy engaging to the west. He can only engage one target at a time. He can't just shoot down a straight line and take out an entire row of people, with a single burst. He has to keep retraining his aim while we continue to maneuver here. So that's why we stagger the column, to prevent against enfilading fire like that. Now, obviously, if they engage from down the road, they will have enfilading fire, but the vehicle is going to have either a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher or a Ma Deuce, Browning 50 cal, and it's the vehicle's job to be watching that front security. So as soon as they see something suspicious, they're just going to fucking obliterate it, right? So that's the concept there. So on the front 4 guys here, this will be your lead fire team or your dismount team. Next to them, we have the squad leader and squad medic. In the rear, we have the vehicle security team. We're missing 2 guys. Where do you think they are?
In the
Drivers
vehicle,
and drivers?
Lieutenant?
That is correct. They are in the vehicle. So by default, the driver of the vehicle will be the rifleman of the fire team, and the gunner will be the grenadier. This is not always the case. We'll cover this more in depth on day 3. We talk about mounted operations. But you always want to have the best person for that job. So, whoever your best driver is, well, they should be your fucking driver, regardless of who they are. All right? Whoever your best gunner is should be your best gunner. But by default, it's going to be the rifleman and grenadier inside the vehicle. All right? So whoever the vehicle team is, they're going to be basically controlling the vehicle. That fire team leader's job is to be dictating where the vehicle goes, keeping it safe and in cover. We always want to provide as much protection to the vehicles as possible because, this is our transportation, and if we push out in a mounted operation, we're going to be covering a lot more ground than we could on foot. So it's our ride home. If we lose that vehicle, well, you're gonna have to walk your ass back fucking 10 kilometers, and that's gonna suck. It also is a mobile resupply for us, right? So vehicles carry extra AT, extra medical supplies, extra ammunition, all that shit. So we don't normally get resupplies in the field as an air assault unit because we have to get that shit brought in by air, and it's very, very dangerous to do so, especially if there's any threat of anti-air. And lastly, the vehicle is a fucking force multiplier for us. So having that AGS or that Mark 19 grenade launcher or the 50 cal, a huge force multiplier for us on the ground. So we want to always make sure we're getting this shit protected as best we can. So whenever we push into towns or any area that we expect contact, we're going to stop and we're going to dismount the vehicle. We're going to put infantry on point. We never ever lead with the VIX if we're going into a suspected contact area. We always have infantry on point. Now the reason behind this is that infantry is a lot smaller target. They can check corners. They can, look around. They're a lot more mobile. So, they can protect the vehicle a lot more. So say we have everyone in the VIC, we have a whole squad in the VIC, we push it up into town. The vehicle can only cover one sector at a time. The turret is not very fast when it turns. So let's say Johnny Jihad in fucking black pajamas pops out to the side, turret gunner doesn't see it, puts an RPG through the center of that vehicle. Well, now we've lost a whole fucking squad and a vehicle. All right, that's unacceptable. So now, if we have infantry pushed out in front of that vehicle, Johnny Jihad pops out. Well, he's dead before he can even line that shot up because you got 4 other infantry checking those sectors before the vehicle comes even close. Is that making sense to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. And like I said, we'll cover this a little more in depth on day 3 about mounted operations.
Lieutenant? Private Duffy?
Yeah, send it.
You guys ever do any joint operations with Armor, or is it just the MRAPs and air units?
We haven't in a while. Sometimes we'll do operations that involve, Bradleys and stuff like that, but not so much in our official capacity. Sometimes it'll be like a fun op or something like that. It just depends. But the majority of our stuff is going to be strictly air assault, light infantry.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yep. All right, you guys have any questions about anything we've covered thus far?
One question, Lieutenant Volk.
Yeah, send it.
What's the longest the mission has ever taken in this unit?
Well, we have a maximum of 3 hours. So any official event can last up to 3 hours. After that point, you are no longer required to stay. Okay? That's pretty much it. I think the longest mission I've been on is about 3.5, almost 4 hours for the longest operation. But just as a reminder, attendance is no longer required after 3 hours. Like, if you got to go, you got to go. It's fine. It's a long fucking time. So I think that's about the longest that we've had.
Understood, Lieutenant. The whole possibility of losing your vehicle and then having to walk 10 clicks got me curious. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yeah, it has happened. We've also had, we've had vehicles that are disabled, and we've hooked up fucking tow ropes to them and towed that shit back to base before as well. So, there's options sometimes depending on how bad the vehicle is, but we make do. Sometimes we have to set demolitions on our own vehicles and destroy that shit to deny the enemy if the weapon system's still operational, stuff like that. So, just depends on the situation. All right, let's move it back down off the tower here. Watch your step. Don't fucking shove each other off. We'll wrap this up.
Lieutenant,
Yes.
I got 2 questions. One of them is regarding the quad staggered column. Who is the 4 guys that lead the convoy on foot?
So that's going to be whatever the dismount team is, right? So you got to think of it that formation we just saw was in the context of a single squad. So when we operate in a platoon. So that's at least 4 or 5 vehicles, and we'll designate which squad is on point, before we step off. We'll put out an op order and all this shit, beforehand, so everyone knows what the mission is. We'll do a briefing and all that stuff, so everyone's on the same fucking page. But whoever the point squad is going to be the ones that are leading the convoy on foot once we dismount.
All right, and the second question is about a lot of info we've got today, and when we gonna be exactly having questions on those info?
You mean the quiz?
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be at the end of day 4. So if you pass your live fire FTX, then we'll move into the oral quiz, and then hopefully graduation after that. So you got some time.
Question, Lieutenant?
Yeah, send it.
What's the pass rate on the oral? What's the pass rate on the FTX and on the oral quiz?
It's pretty good. I don't know. I don't have any exact numbers for you, but it's pretty good. Most people that make it to day 4 have proven that they want to fucking be here and take part in what we do. So they put in the time and effort to make sure that they fucking get it done. So
understood, Lieutenant. Thank you.
All right, everyone, go ahead and take a knee. We'll wrap this up. All right, any other questions before we get to the closing here?
Thank you, Lieutenant.
No, Lieutenant.
All right.
None, sir.
All right, we've reached the end of day 1. Seem like you guys are getting the hang of everything here. I'm pretty pleased with what I've seen thus far. So keep up that fucking good work. Make sure that we're, addressing people by rank and last name. That's a big part of what we do here. So keep hammering that shit in. As of right now, since you've finished your class with me, I am your direct chain of command in this unit. So any questions, comments, concerns as they pertain to the 506, you need to come to me first. The best way to do that is send me a private message on the forums. All right. If I do not respond within 48 hours, you're clear to contact either Sergeant Steele or Sergeant Perrin. If you contact them, the first thing they're going to ask is, did you contact Lieutenant McCoy? And if you say no, they're going to tell you to eat a bag of Richards and choke on the last one. If you know what I mean.
Yes, sir.
That means
Yes,
dicks,
sir.
in case you didn't understand. All right. So make sure you come to me first. There's yet to be a time where I've not responded within 48 hours. I'm pretty fucking easy to get a hold of around here. All right. So next thing, as PV1s, you are eligible to fill in for all squad trainings and platoon trainings. The only thing you cannot do is the full task force operations. All right. For that, you have to finish Osut and be a PV2 in the unit to be able to do the full-scale task force operations. But you are eligible to fill in for pretty much any training exercise. We do have a new public liberation server. You're welcome to have it. It does take a different version of the 506 standard mod. All that information is on the forums. As members of this unit, you are expected to treat that server as if it were an official operation server. So that means, keep that immersion and realism level high. There's a whole list of fucking rules on the forums that you can find as well. So make sure you abide by those rules when you're on that server and, set a good example for people that are interested in joining this unit. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Question. What do we have access to, Lieutenant? Do we have access to that part of the forum?
It should be in the public server information. If not, we'll try and get you the link.
All right, thank you.
I was about to ask the same question because I never find the.
I mean, if
section of
it's a
the
public
IP.
server, so I mean,
Yeah,
technically. All right, Sergeant Steele just posted it in the classroom for you guys and the TeamSpeak, so you can check it out after
Understood. Thank you,
class.
sir.
Well, you can thank the sergeant for that.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Sergeant.
So, like I said at the beginning of class, it is understood that this unit is not for everybody. We are a Arma unit first and a gaming community second. All right, so we need to make sure that we understand that moving forward. All right, it's very important to how this unit operates, and sometimes people don't like that, and that sucks, but that is what it is, and that's how we operate here, and that's why this unit is continuing to run as one of the strongest MILSIM units in the Arma 3 community. All right, Sergeant Perrin, Sergeant Steele, do you guys have anything before we wrap up?
I have one thing, LT.
Send it.
It's just something I heard on our jog over here to the tower was mentioning rappel. We do have the rappel function, but we never use rappel. That is only for an emergency. If you are stuck somewhere, that if you jump off of it, it will break your legs. You can rappel off of it. Other than that, we never rappel.
That is
All right,
correct.
thank you.
Yep, absolutely correct. So it is there in case of emergencies, but we do not use it at all for any standard purposes. Sergeant Steele, you got anything?
One quick thing, LT. Private Briglin, when you hop out of here, check your face for me. It looks like you get a little bit of a soul patch. Just make sure that you're clean shaven. I think everybody else looks like all right.
Good. Hold on. Looks clean.
Tilt your head up a little
Maybe
bit.
it was just-
Hold left alt, tilt your head up. Oh yeah, you got a little chin patch right there. All right, well just take a look at it and see if you can find something that's to Army standards there. All right. So for day 2, keep an eye out just in case. I do not expect any further mod updates between now and Thursday, but do keep an eye on the Class Bravo thread on the forums just to make sure before you get here. So we want to make sure we have a lot more to cover on day 2, so we need to make sure we start fucking on time. So make sure all your mods are up to date, and so we're not waiting for you, all y'all, before we get this going. I know the mods came out last night before the class today, so I'm not gonna harp on today, but for day 2, let's just make sure that we'll do our best to keep that shit squared away. All right, do you guys have any last questions, comments, concerns before we get out of here?
No,
Yes,
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant.
Sir.
I got a question, Private Shindy.
Send it.
I think Alpha class is stepping 1 day more than us. Is that correct?
So Class Alpha has done days 1 and 2 already. They're going to continue with days 3 and 4 this Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
After you complete day 2 with this class, you will be eligible to transfer to Class Alpha to finish your training with them by Sunday. So that's the fastest way that you guys can get through Osut right now. That is totally fine, and I encourage that if that is something that you can do. So actually, this stand up if that is your intent at this point.
Of course, sir. But I mean, if something happened and somehow or some way I couldn't just join the day 2 or 3 in this class Bravo. So what's I'm eligible to do?
So if the stipulation about Osut is that you have to complete each day in sequence, right? You can't just do day 1, 3, 2, and then 4. You have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in order. So if you miss a day, so say you miss day 2, you just have to wait until the next possible day 2 comes around, right? And both classes run in 2-week cycles. So if you miss this day 2, the next possible day 2 will be, a week from this coming Sunday, right? So that'll be the next day 2 that you'd be able to do.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
That makes sense. So
Absolutely.
if you finish days 1 and 2 here, you are eligible to transfer to 3 and 4. If you happen to only be able to do day 3 with Class Alpha, then you can just come back, the following Thursday for day 4, and that's fine, right? So you don't have to do classes twice over. You just have to do them once in order. That's the only thing about OSA.
Fair enough.
Is that clear to everybody?
Sorry, Lieutenant.
Yes, Lieutenant, but we'll miss everyone who doesn't do it.
All right. Any other questions?
Lieutenant, thank
No,
you.
sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sergeants.
Keep up the good work, gentlemen. We will see you on Thursday. If you cannot attend or you might be late, please let me know via PM on the forums. Just keep in communication. If you're going to make it but might be a little late, we'll do our best to, accommodate. So as long as you stay in communication, that's really the kicker. If you just fucking don't show up or don't do anything, well, then I don't give a fuck because you didn't care to, communicate that to me.
Understood, Lieutenant.
All right. Gentlemen, you are all dismissed. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Get the fuck out of here.
Stand by.